Guys, the sneaker market is crashing and burning, and I'm out here celebrating because there is some insane steals out there. So today, I'm going over the top 10 best sneakers that you can get under retail price. Coming in at number 10, the Drake Nocta Hot Step Air Terra. Now, this one's pretty crazy because pretty much every colorway on this sneaker model is way under retail price. You can actually often find these things sitting on sales racks through different retailers. They retail at $180, however, you can easily find these things for $130 to $140, or even less. If you look at some of the last sales on StockX, some sizes have gone for under $100. Now, I fully understand that some people really dislike this pair of shoes, but overall, I think it's pretty solid. It's definitely comfortable. It's decent quality, made with all over leather on the upper, and the colorways are not actually bad. In fact, they're pretty solid, except for maybe the snakeskin ones. Those got a little bit crazy, but you've got a decent amount of options and a pretty solid pair of shoes for the summertime. Coming in at number 9 is a pair of shoes that I think just the retail price killed them, and that is the Yeezy 500 tactical boots. When these first launched last year, they dropped for a whopping $300, which is just insane. I don't think these had any business being 300 bucks. But thankfully, most people realized that, and now they've gone for under retail. Now, me saying that I don't think these are worth $300 is not saying that this is a bad shoe. In fact, it was one of my favorite Yeezys that dropped last year. They are insanely comfortable. In fact, a little bit deceivingly comfortable because they are a tactical boot. They come up quite high, but they're incredibly light and super flexible on the upper, which makes them feel like when you have them on, you could run. You can find these things for as low as $220. Most sales on StockX are going for anywhere between $220 and $250. And I honestly think it's a solid price for this pair of shoes. If you wanted to wear these things around, I think they look pretty solid. If you've ever tried a Yeezy 500, it has the same comfort, but just more of a secure and lighter fit. Coming in at number 8 on the list is a pair of shoes that is hilariously disrespected. It's the J Balvin Jordan 2. This is another $300 sneaker, which again, I think just, yeah, why are you asking $300 for these? Maybe it's the light up tongue or just the collaboration aspect, but I definitely don't think that they're worth $300, or at least I personally wouldn't pay that much. But here's the kicker. You can find these things at a lot of different retailers in their sale discounted sections, and if you take a look at the aftermarket, you can pick these things up pretty easily for like $150 to maybe $200. So yeah, you're saving a ton of money if you were interested in this pair of shoes. And again, I don't think it's a bad pair of sneakers. I'm not the biggest fan of Jordan 2s, but if I had to pick out of all of the Jordan 2s that Jordan Brand tried to really push over the last 2 years, these are probably my favorite. Coming in at number 7 on the list is a little bit more of a surprising option. It's the Nike Blazer Jumbo. Now, this was one of my favorite budget shoes just in general. They retail for $110 from Nike. However, you could pick a pair of these things up for almost half the price, at about $50 to $65. It's basically an updated version of the classic Nike Blazer that everybody knows, everybody loves. It actually improves a few things practically. Like we all know, it's almost a meme at this point that Nike Blazers are notoriously hard to get your foot into them. Well, these things solve the problem by having an elasticated band around the back of the heel area. You can just slide your foot right in there, and then there is all of the deconstructed elements which make it a little bit more modern, a little bit more off-white. You've got the exposed foam tongue, you've got the jagged stitching across the toe box, and of course the jumbo Nike swoosh, which I think looks really good on this silhouette. It's a comfortable pair of shoes, a really solid, like, everyday sneaker, and I think if you can get these things for 60, 70 bucks, you are getting a solid pair of shoes. Coming in at number 6 on the list is the Air Jordan 3 Fear. This one was pretty surprising. I didn't expect to see these things hanging around on retailer websites, let alone going for under retail, but here we are, and this is definitely a solid option if you are after a sneaker for under that retail price. So as you guys know, the Jordan Fear pack, these dropped a decade ago. The Jordan 3s dropped late last year, and we're actually going to be getting the Fear 4s this year, and it's a solid colorway. I mean, there's not really too much to dislike about this pair of shoes. It's a very muted, wearable option, and I think the color scheme being the Fear pack really goes together nicely with all of the dark grays. I think it's an easy pair of shoes to throw on with a bunch of different outfits, so you can make them look really good with this pair. And they retail for $200, and you can easily find these things for under that price point. Nothing too crazy. You're looking at about anywhere between like $160, $170, all the way up to $190 bucks. Coming in at number 5 is the Jordan 1 High Black and White. So this is a more recent release, and when I picked these things up, I told you guys this is going to be a great opportunity because if they sit on shelves and they go under retail, it's a solid colorway to have. And not only do you get a super wearable option on the Jordan 1 silhouette, but you also get the potential to customize these things into a bunch of really cool colorways. So the color blocking is in the bread format, so you could easily create some breads from these or something that looks similar, or you could go wild wild. Basically, all of these white panels are just whatever you want. It just makes the customization super easy, and because you're not going to be paying retail price, which is already $180, it makes it so much easier to do. So right now, you can pick these things up for about $120 to $150, and I will say, keep in mind, because this is a more recent release and they are sitting on a bunch of different retailer websites, you can either wait for them to go on sale at all of these other retailers or wait for some discount codes to pop up, or you could just pick them up from the aftermarket for under the retail price. StockX is selling them. You can pick them up for like $150 on there. Coming in at number 4, we've got another Jordan 1, this time the Royal Reimagined. This being an OG colorway, some would say it's being absolutely disrespected by going under the retail price, but I think it's pretty fitting for 2024. Listen, we've come off of such a huge wave of Jordan 1s over the past few years, so it's about time that we start seeing a little bit of an adjustment. I don't see Jordan 1 staying this way. I think as soon as Nike starts pulling back on all of their retro releases, we'll start seeing Jordan 1s and Dunks and stuff like that become harder and harder to get. But right now, we're loving it because you can pick these things up for anywhere between $120 to about $150. Now keep in mind, they retail for $180, so I think it's a pretty solid steal. Right, before we get into the top 3, let me hit you guys with some honorable mentions for pairs that didn't quite make it for one reason or another, starting with the Mischief Big Red boots. Yes, I know, not the most practical pair of shoes by any means. In fact, I wouldn't even have these things on the list for their practicality. But what I do see these things as is a really cool collector's piece, an art piece, something to have on display. So these retail for $350. You can now pick them up anywhere between $150 to $250, especially if you shop around, maybe find a second-hand pair. There's a lot of people who are trying to ditch these things. Another honorable mention would be the medium curry Nike Dunk Low. This was an insanely expensive pair of shoes, but after multiple restocks, they have dropped down. They're in the honorable mentions because they are not quite under the retail price just yet. Some sizes are, you could definitely find some under retail, but most of them sit at about that retail price point or just slightly above. Last honorable mention is the Yeezy 350 Compact. So we got both colorways, the black and the white, which you can pick up for an absolute steal. At one point, these things were all the way down to about $100. They've kind of gone up slightly since then, but you can easily pick these things up for like $120, $130. In fact, I picked up the black pair for my mom for about $130. Brand new from a retailer that was selling them discounted like 50% off. They retail for $230, so you're getting them like 50% off. Coming in at number 3 is a huge surprise to me. It's the New Balance 990 V6. That's right, one of New Balance's most premium flagship sneakers is available for a steep discount. So these retail for a whopping $200, which is what I think turns most people off of this sneaker, especially when you have a huge array of other New Balance options that are way under that price point. But as you know, with New Balance, you are getting some insanely premium materials, a very comfortable pair of shoes that will last a very long time. Currently, you can find these things for about $150, which I think is a great deal for this pair of shoes. It is one of the most comfortable options that New Balance offers. In at number 2, we've got the Yeezy 700 Analog and Salt. So these are two colorways that restocked very heavily last year as part of, Adidas selling off all of their remaining Yeezys, and these things absolutely tanked in terms of their price point. Both of these colorways retail at $300, which again I think is insanely steep for the sneaker, but at one point they were reselling for like $400 plus, and now you can find them both for a steep discount. The Salt colorway specifically you can find easily for $200 or less. The Analog colorway you're looking at about $250 or less depending on what size you are and how hard you look. I mean, I literally just bought the Analog colorway for about $200, and that was a brand new pair that I'm psyched that I managed to get that deal on. And again, with all Yeezys, once they are gone, they are gone. They're not coming back, which means they're only going to become harder to get and more rare. But coming in at number 1 is the Jordan 3 Craft Ivory. Hands down, my favorite Jordan 3 sneaker at the moment. It is such a nice colorway, and I think the changes that they made to these things are just very tasteful and impactful. Like seriously, the added material and the little shape change that they did with the toe box made these things look just so cool on foot. It's not as steep of a discount as some of the others on today's list, but I think it's still pretty solid. They retail at a whopping $210. However, you can easily pick these things up for under $200. I mean, even Nike was selling these things at a discount at one point, or at least they were allowing you to use discount codes when you buy them, which I think was pretty crazy. I don't really see the price staying this low on this pair of shoes. I definitely see it going up because especially here in the EU, they were pretty damn limited, but it's a solid pair of sneakers, especially for the spring summertime. So I think perfect opportunity right now is to pick these things up. But there you have have it, guys. That is my list. Now, what I want to hear from you is what steals you have found. Let me know down in the comment section if you've been picking up anything recently. And click over there to find out what the top 10 most comfortable sneakers are on the planet.